All right, I'm gonna start with you. I want you to say your name, something interesting about yourself, and where you're from. We're gonna go around the table. We'll start over here.
My name's Nichelle Dior, and something interesting about myself is I'm infatuated with the concept of mental illness.
Interesting. All right, all right.
My name, my name is Michelle Mitchell. I'm from PA. Something interesting about myself. Oh, I love life.
All right, all right, all right.
Hi, my name is Zenobia Alexander. I'm from Queens, New York. Something interesting about me, I'm a woman that's multi-talented.
You tell them, that's right. In the handout, multi-talented. Yeah.
My name is Angela Smith, Dr. Smith. My profession is anesthesia. That's what I do in the daytime, and I write at night. My pen name is A.L. Smith.
Carlos Wallace. I'm from Houston, Texas. For 21 years, I was a railroad engineer. Not a lot of people can say they've driven a
No,
train.
they haven't.
That's,
No, they
that's a
haven't.
little different.
I see you.
So I went from that to writing books.
All right.
My name is Herbert Robinson. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I'm the author of Secret Kept. And for 17 and a half years, I was in federal penitentiary, so I wrote the book there. That's something interesting about me.
All right.
My name is Eartha Watts Hicks. I'm actually from up the street. And I started writing my novel in 2001, and I started writing poetry at age 11.
All right. Now, round of applause for these authors coming up. And we're about to go deep. We're about ready to cry. You ready to give me your credit card numbers? Ready? We're going to go all the way in today. No, one great thing about UBAWA is getting to actually speak to authors and finding out how they got into it. So first, how did you decide to become an author?
At age 11, I started writing poetry, and somewhere around age 13, I called myself being a songwriter. But writing love songs at age 13, they sound like garbage because you don't know nothing about no love. So I tried for a number of years as a stay-at-home mom to be a songwriter, and when that wasn't getting me anywhere, I decided to turn my music catalog into chapters of a novel.
All right, all right. And when did you decide to become an author, when you took it seriously, going, wait, I should actually write a book?
I have two daughters, and they have been very patient with me. And I knew I needed to do something different. So I went to the library, and I read every how to write a book I could find, and I wrote a great novel.
All right, all right. And I know, I'm looking at you. I'm looking over here. So what's some mistakes you've made when you want to become an author and actually write it that you wish you could have changed now that you have the knowledge?
Well, first, I never wanted to be an author.
Really?
I was approached by a publishing company to write a book because I had amassed such a social media following. And for about 3 years, I said no. And after encouragement from my publicist, she's here today, and my family, I finally said yes. And then I had to make the determination what I was going to write about. And so I chose to write about my family and some of the trials and tribulations that, over my 40 years that actually made me stronger, that I thought was bad, but actually ended up being good and made me a stronger person. Which brings the title, Life is Not Complicated, You Are. And so there it is. So I can't really say that there was any mistakes. They were all essential learning tools, even in the writing. As I approach my second book, there's a couple things that I'm going to do different, obviously, because before I had no knowledge, but now I've ascertained a great build of knowledge, so it'll be a much easier process this time.
Like, what's one of the major ones?
I can't really pinpoint any one specific thing. One thing, when I submitted it to the editor, we had 17 chapters, and the book has 13. So they were saying, well, some of the chapters sound so much alike, you should combine them. So I guess I kind of overwrote. So I wrote too much, so I could have finished a lot sooner. So that's probably the biggest mistake. It took me longer than it should have, and it was my fault.
But that's okay, 'cause that's the creative process, right? We have to go through that and whatnot. All right. And for you, how do you deal with writer's block?
Wow. Well, it took me 10 years to write my first book, and people ask me why, and I say, well, I had to live some more in order to finish it. So it took me 10 years to write most of it and about maybe 6 months to write the rest of it. So it wasn't really writer's block, it was just I needed the content to write. So, yeah.
And when did you decide during that time, all right, it's time to start writing?
Now that's a trick question.
You know,
There
trick
was
question.
something did happen. I won't say what it was. You got to read the book. But there was something that happened that made me go ahead and finish, and it happened in January. So there was a triggering event that made me finish.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And how do you know when you're done writing, when the book is over?
When I write the end.
Has there ever been a time you weren't happy with the ending and you had to re-go over and do it?
Me, I wouldn't say, no, I would say no, because anything that I write is from life experience or things that I have seen someone go through. So I have never had that problem with, with anything that I write.
Okay, okay. And for you, what happens when you're not being as productive as you want to be? You have the book, you have the idea, and you're thinking of writing. How do you get it all together?
Well, when I'm not being productive as I should be, I have my literary sisters. Like, they stay on their grind. So when I look at them and I see what they're posting and what they're doing, and she writing 10,000 words a night and carrying on, I'm like, let me go ahead and sit down and go ahead and get some work done, because this is a real grind. This is a hustle.
Absolutely. No, she said it right. It is a hustle. And how do you handle negative criticism when you're writing? Give to your friends or colleagues and they say they don't like something. What do you do?
I learn from it. I don't look at negativity in a negative way. I think it's usually something for me to grow. And I like the negative feedback because sometimes it's extremely critical to my writing or how I can change things. So I don't look at it in a negative way. I always thank people unless they're just deliberately being rude, and I just ignore it. But no, most times I get negative feedback, but it's criticism that I need to enhance my writing.
All right, all right. No, it's real. So I want to go to each one of you actually and talk about your first book. How did you get it published? Starting with you.
Actually, Love Changes is my first book, and I published it myself. For a number of years, I volunteered as director of publications for a non-for-profit, and putting together their newsletter and doing the graphic design and the editing. I had an agent, and she did not represent self-published authors, so it didn't make any sense for me to just sit there twiddling my thumbs for years, waiting for acquisition editors to look over my copy when I could put the book together myself, and I did.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, The Secret Kept was a long time coming, and once I finished the book, I submitted it to a few companies, and once they read it over, they kind of, decided that they would take me on, and they did the editing and did everything for me. But I realized I needed to get out here myself to push it. You can't really sit on your behind and wait for somebody else to do your work that you need to be doing for yourself.
We got you, Zay. We got you.
Okay, so I guess I'm a little different. I actually had a publishing deal with a company, but we did not have the same vision. The story that I was telling had nothing to do with the cover. I'm just being real. And so I ended up severing ties with that situation, and I found a smaller company who sees my vision and understands that I'm trying to tell a story or tell a collection of stories that really have an impact on women and girls. And I just didn't want naked women on the front of my book, so there you go.
All right.
Okay, my first book was published exactly 2 years ago under a company called True Glory Publications. From there, I was signed to a 10-book deal. I completed the 10 books in 3 months. Then I was signed to a 15-book deal, and I completed the 15 books in maybe 11 months. So then from there, I went on to open my own publishing company, where I now have 15 authors signed up under me. And I have 9 books of my own released under my own company.
She doesn't
It's a lot
sleep.
of writing.
Did you not hear what she just said? Wow. How, before I let you go, hold up.
Do you have a husband?
Yes, I do.
What's the
And 4
most you
kids.
have,
Four
wait, what's
kids.
the most you have
Wow.
written in a day? The most?
I can write a 60,000 word book in a day.
Oh my God.
If I'm given 24 hours with no interruptions, without my 4 kids bothering me or my husband, yeah, 60,000 words. I type 250 words per minute.
That's, wow. Go ahead, you can answer.
I just want to ask you, do you use an outline or how do you?
Everything flows from the top of my head.
Oh, wow.
All life experience thing. I can sit here and look over the audience and look at how people are sitting and develop a story off of them. Something I've been doing since the age of 7, so it's been in me since that long. So.
Wow, it's natural. She's like the Jay-Z of writing. You just get up, you just get in and go, and I see you. Wow. All right. And tell us how you got your first book published.
My first book is titled She Ain't Me. I was also signed to True Glory Publications. I am now an independent author. Yeah, that's just pretty much my story. That's how I got my first book out there.
All right.
Well, my story will be different. I was bored in college one night, and because I couldn't go to a party, and was surfing Facebook, and I said, you know what? All I have is a concept, and I follow a lot of my favorite authors, and the owner of True Glory was at that time my favorite author. So I sought out, I sent him a message, and I said, all I have is a concept. And he read the concept. He said, I think this would be a great story. So he pushed me to write my first book, and now I am independent as well.
Wow, that's beautiful. You hear that? She just made it happen. You have to push to make things happen. Now, my question for anyone who'd like to answer, you guys would like to, is let's say I have a story and I've written it and I want to get it published. What should I do? How do I even know to get it to a publisher or an editor? What do I do?